wrong with them, right? So ever since this game's come out, there's been very, I would say, vocal minority in the community around Elden Ring that has been complaining about the difficulty of the game. Now, from my understanding, a lot of the Souls fans seem to think that this is the easiest of the games in this kind of, stomped by bosses for 4 hours straight, just like the rest of us, and they just can't handle it, right? They're screaming for things like accessibility options and, difficulty tuners and things like that. And I kind of just wanted to get on here and talk about this because this is kind of like a common issue I've seen in the gaming industry, right? And it doesn't really just entail Elden Ring at this point, but it entails pretty much every video game I play, and probably a good amount of the video games that you play as well, right? And it's this crowd of people who they're not good at the game, right? And there really isn't anything wrong with that. If you're not good at video games, you're not good at video games. It's like you're not good at basketball, or you're not good at painting, right? Like, these things happen. Not everyone can be good at everything. But instead of just dealing with that and grinding to be better, or just finding a different hobby that suits them more, there's this group of people that just fucking complain about how difficult video games are. Now, from my understanding of it, video games have become much easier over time, like in general. I'm not talking about just like the Souls games or anything like that, but in general, video games have been getting easier over time, right? Like, there's a lot of games for like the NES, or even up until like the PS2 and stuff like that are just so unforgiving that if you're not good at them, you have no prospect of beating these games, and that's just how they were made. There was no patch to, through the bosses and stuff like that. You just play through that shit or you shut up. And Elden Ring is very, almost like, it reminds me of that era a little bit more, as someone who really started getting into gaming on the PS2, and I played games like that were just unforgiving before. It's like a throwback in a way. It provides that traditional video game challenge aspect, right, where you have to actually grind the fuck out of the game in order to get something out of it. Elden Ring is not a game that you're going to casually play, and it sucks to say that. I am a casual gamer. I love playing casual video games, Elden Ring is not that game. You're either going to sink time into it and learn, and you're going to figure out what to do, and you're going to play through the challenge, or you're just not going to play Elden Ring. That's kind of your only two options at this point. But there has been people who've been screaming for what they call, quote, accessibility options. Now, accessibility options, in most times when it's being used to describe making a video game more accessible. Now, what exactly does that entail? Well, let's say you have some sort of disability. So, I don't know, your hands don't work right or something. You had an accident at work, right, and you can't move some of your fingers well. The accessibility modes are intended to kind of address issues for people with handicaps, with disabilities, with issues that render them basically unable to play the game at its normal pace, right? And I have no problem with accessibility